Okay, so I want to address an issue. Martial arts training is flawed. It is very, very flawed. The training methodology is not scientific for the most part. If you look at combat sports, different story, because it's all about performance. But martial arts is, basically kept down tradition. And which is cool. Like, if that's what your goal is, by all means, yeah, do it. But if not, if your goal is self-defense or to be able to fight better, the way they train is inadequate. It's not good enough. And I just want to shed some light on some things that sort of irritate me. And the first one is the whole production of clones, I call it. So that is where you have an instructor standing out the front of the class, demonstrating techniques, and everyone else copies. And they try and copy, be a carbon copy of that person. Like, it's almost like a photocopy. And the problem with that is that we're not all the same. We're not all built the same. We're not all built equal. Speaking from my experience, back in the day, 20 years ago, when I used to fight, I used to fight in the 72.5 kilogram division at 6'3", so, pretty skinny dude. I'd cut my weight, get that light. And, shortly thereafter, when I, stopped, I got up to 90 kilos. Now, what I could do at 72, I could not do at 90, and vice versa. And my strategies, the way I fought, the way I did everything had to change. Now, in mixed martial arts, in combat sports, that's accounted for. I love the boxing model where you'll have Tyson Fury, who's 6'9", jabs, moves, that kind of thing. And then you have Mike Tyson, who's like 5'10", a 5'10" nugget. To have them two doing the same thing would be wrong. Like, imagine putting Tyson Fury in the peekaboo style. It doesn't not make sense. Imagine trying to get Mike to fight stick and move, like Tyson does, and put them in against each other, and it's not going to work. And that's what happens with martial arts, like karate, kung fu, all that stuff. You expect everyone to do the exact same thing. It's absurd. I know now I'll have a training group of, say, 30 people, and they're all different. I might have someone that's 50 kilos and 150 centimeters tall. I might have someone 120 kilos that is 6'6", and to have them adopt the same strategy is ridiculous. We're not here to produce clones. And one of the things that sort of really irritated me is some time ago, I was at a sports basketball stadium, and there was a karate class on in the basketball court next to me, and I always take an interest, have a look and see what they're up to, And I still remember they had this one kid, and the instructor was kind of fussing over him about his foot positioning, and he needs to turn his toe out a little bit more. He was almost somewhat pigeon-toed, and I thought, well, what happens if that kid has a hip aversion? It's not possible for him to turn his foot around, and you're being pedantic about those things. It doesn't work. And that's where, I guess, one thing that's really important in the world's self-defense, the most important thing is that term self. The first word, self. It's about you and what you can do. And that's the thing, like the other day I was teaching a group, if you end up on the ground and someone's standing over you, and we're going through different ways of, getting up, the tactical get up and various other things. And I presented them with, about 4 or 5 different examples or methods that people use. And you've got some old ladies in that group, like I'm talking, in their 60s. And the pace that they got up it wasn't good enough. So a martial arts instructor would tell them to practice that to get faster. But myself, adopting the policies that I do, I just said to them, stay on the ground and kick from there, because you don't get up fast enough. And if you're in the process of getting up and you wear a kick at that point, you're in all sorts of trouble. So stay down. The same with telling people to run away. Those same people, those unfit people, those extremely obese people can't run. If they run 20 meters to try and get away, first of all, the other person will catch them, and then they're going to have to fight tired. So this one-size-fits-all producing clone stuff doesn't work. It's great for the masses and making money and making it easier for you to teach multitudes of people. But in terms of making progress for your students, you're behind the 8 ball. So that's the first thing that irritates me.